Welcome to episode 2 of Lesbian Training for Men. From Incommunicado to Full Expression. The topic of communication is not a new one within relationships. This is very true. And yet we see the issues with communication again and again, and perhaps the several ways that people try to blame things for bad communication or a lack of communication. Anything from technology being blamed, to lack of interest, to bad listening skills, and in some ways, just straight up misunderstanding about the expectation within relationship. I recently had a couple of conversations wherein it became very clear that it wasn't about what any one person wanted in the situation. The real issue that it came down to was that the desires of each person were not being expressed. Now, this is problematic in any situation, whether it's work or love or family. It doesn't really matter, friendship, because what it boils down to is that when someone doesn't say what they want clearly, then the gate seems to be wide open for all sorts of interpretation and perhaps expectations that are not congruent to the desires of those involved. And then, like if you add on several years or decades to this sort of misunderstanding of intention and play out, then it becomes something that is even more difficult to untangle, to get to the root of whatever it is that is at the core and heart of what each person wants to experience. As we talked about in our first episode, there is nothing wrong with you. The other part of that is that there's nothing wrong with anyone else either. Now, I know that's hard to accept, especially when we think about people that have done just monstrous things in history. God doesn't make people who are defective. The design is not defective. What we do with it is a different story. And so if we actually consider that one of the proactive and sort of preemptive things that can be done almost painlessly is to have discussions about expectations early on in any situation. It doesn't mean that we'll be spared from all pain, but what very, very clear communication provides for everyone is the opportunity to use the drive of desire in a way that is honest, open, and has the greatest chance, not just for the success of what it is that we want, but perhaps for that which is beyond what we want. In business, we have all sorts of contracts and signatures and lawyers and different ways in which we protect our interests when we are commingling them with others. And when I was taking contract law, one of the things we talked about was the original intention for contracts was to actually move business forward expediently and in the best possible manner. And so it seems to me that when we enter into relationships with people and we have unspoken agreements, these are not bad things. But I would say that a very strong step towards deeper trust and understanding does not come from the evasion or the omission of speaking your mind and your heart about what it is that you want, because this, in fact, seems to create more of the disillusionment and breakdown of that which is the core and the constitution of what is meant to hold things, not bind things together, but to respectfully create a way for love to move forward in the contract that we openly speak of. Some might say this takes courage and bravery to actually talk about what it is that you want openly. But when you consider the 60, 70, and 80% of divorce rates that go on sometimes, I can't see how it is more painful to say that which you want and to strip away any shame or embarrassment about it than it would be to pay thousands of dollars for divorce and mend a searing, betraying breakup instead. And as we move into this second renaissance, it really is time for us to discard that which has caused so much pain and suffering. That is really why I've put Lesbian Training for Men together. It isn't because I'm so smart and I know more than other people. It's simply because I want to be instrumental in lessening the suffering and aiding others in lessening their suffering so that our starting line isn't in recovery, and repair of that which has been decimated, but instead, our starting line can be that which we say and talk about when we communicate what we want.